Alright, so today I'm going to be doing a quick home care guide on Vandaceous type orchids. So just as a little bit of a background, there's several types here, some hybrids and species. This is a Rhinanthera citrina, but it's still considered Vandaceous. This is a Neophoenicia falcata, which is now Vanda falcata. This is known as like samurai orchid and very popular in Japan. It's more of a miniature. One of my favorite types to grow. Grows really well in the home. And then this here is a hybrid Neophoenicia with I believe Holcoglossum and Rhynchostylus gigantea. So you have some of those traits from the Rhynchostylus showing up in this. So how do I take care of these plants in my home? First of all, I don't live in a warm climate, so everything has to be in the home. In the winter, it gets very cold and dry here. I mean, I think the main thing is you're probably not going to want to grow these bare-rooted like you might see in baskets or other things if you have a greenhouse or warmer environment. I grow mine all in pots here. They seem to do really well compared to other types of orchids that I grow or have tried growing. From my experience, these and Cattleya type orchids seem to do the best for me. I feed my plants with MSU fertilizer, I'd say once to twice a month. I always go a little bit lower than the recommended solution because I've noticed that you can burn the roots pretty easy. I also do use some extra supplements like Super Thrive. Cali Magic is a calcium supplement with like a kelp extract in it or something like that. So that I think really helps boost these plants up. But again, I think they're a pretty easy type of orchid to grow in the home. I mean, you can get away with only watering these once a week and not kill it. So if you have to go travel for work or you have to do something else, you should be okay to get by with that. They do struggle for me in the winter a little bit because of the dry air. I mean, that's really the only problem is central heating in the home really dries out your plants a lot quicker, so you're gonna have to water at least twice a week to keep these doing well. But they are pretty resistant to some drought. I mean, some even, if you let them sit for a little bit, like a week or two, I've seen some of my Ascocentrums, which are another type of Vanda, and some of the other start to produce new roots because they're like, okay, I'm gonna die, I don't have any roots, or I have very little roots, now let's start doing something. Sometimes a little bit of a dry spell will trigger root growth on these plants, and I think the main thing I found to get them to bloom is you need like a pretty distinct drop in temperature. These all started spiking and blooming, say late February is when everything really started going with these plants, and now we're into early April here. Rhinanthera is about to go over. The blooms are pretty much shot here. I do have another video, I'd say examples of the blooms, but still, it's one of my favorite plants. Really easy growing. This one here is a Vanda rumrel, so it's a primary hybrid between two different species. Another type that I grabbed here is called a terete type. So this is a stick type Vanda. This is a Papiophanthe Miss Joachim or something like that. I believe it's the national flower of the Philippines. So very cool. I'm not sure. It's doing okay. It's got a kiki here. I haven't had it bloom yet. I'm not super familiar with these. It was only like 15 bucks, so I figured I'd give it a try. But we'll see if we can get this guy to do something. He's survived for almost a year, so that's a good thing. And then this one here is a Vanda parvifolia. So it's a yellow with like a purple lip. This is a species that stays relatively small. I say relatively small because, I mean, if you look, pretty happy. The leaves have like doubled in length, and I believe this is probably the maximum you're gonna see. So like a full span across the plant is probably about a foot. So I try and do the smaller ones because Vandas can get pretty crazy in the size. I'll go maybe grab one more here to show you, like just for fun here. This one here is, I bought this as a seedling, I think for about $10 or something like that from Orchids by Hauserman in Chicago. Little guy, I mean, when it started, but as you can see, like, I can't even keep you in the frame here. So these leaves here are the last two fully. This one's probably the full size, I would have to imagine. This is a hybrid with an Ascosendra or Ascocentrum, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than some of the other types of Vandas, but it's still, I don't know, at least 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet of span between the leaves on this guy here. I do grow this one in a basket, but with bark and some sphagnum moss. Roots are doing pretty good. Don't get turned off if they get kind of a brown staining. That's probably root burn, but I've had this thing for a year and a half and it's done really well for me. No issues with this plant, really easy. And then just for fun, we have one more little guy. This is considered a miniature. This is a Ascocentrum ampuloseum. Pretty small little guy. I've had it for almost 2 years. It blooms reliably for me once every summer. So this one should be coming up in bloom here. I mean, like, it's been pretty happy. This last leaf is double the size of everything else. So they can, even the miniatures can get pretty big. So just keep that in mind. At least with these, you're growing vertically. Growing Cattleyas and some of the others, they can just become like massive. Even if they're not very tall, the spread of them, and they rebloom on these guys up the growth. So good for a home or a limited space because they go vertical and then they rebloom. And I'd say they're considerably easier, at least from my experience, than growing Phalaenopsis orchids. People always say those are so easy to grow. I don't know, I've had several of them. They actually, for me, are probably one of the hardest, maybe followed by Dendrobium orchids. I don't know if it's the temperature or whatever. I mean, I don't have perfect conditions here. This is in-home, climate-controlled, northern, very cold climate. So, I mean, getting any of these to grow is, I think, an achievement at all. So anyways, I hope you found this helpful. We'll be doing more videos like this in the future, and we hope to see you around. Thank you.